Welcome everyone, I'm Ross, Memphis Panther. With me as always is my very good friend, the co-host, Region 3 President, Lawrence Gervais. We're broadcasting from Calgary, which is in the Region 3 Métis Nation of Alberta, part of the Métis Nation Historic Homeland. We'd also like to acknowledge these lands are the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kainai, Gani, Treaty 7, Tsuut'ina, and Stoney Nakoda, whom we share this land on the basis of our historical and ongoing relationships. We'd also like to say thank you to our First Nation friends, to the Métis settlements, and to our Métis brothers, sisters, and families. We'd also like to give thanks to our elders for their guidance and to Mother Earth, who allows us the time to share her bounty. And now, folks, let's get the wheels moving. Lawrence, we're back at it again. Last week at the Hunt House, we got to finally a chance to sit together. And again, we've pointed out so many times, each time, you feel as though we're making this progress as we emerge, as we think out of the pandemic. And then the pandemic of an election occurs, then the pandemic of this province and the challenges that are being faced in Alberta, but it's not necessarily just limited to us. You're starting to see the variants popping up all around the world and all the other provinces and now all the other cities. But, each time I think we're climbing out of this, each time it's going to be easier and easier and easier for us to get together. I'm so grateful that we did last week. I'm grateful that we've done our part and that we can now and that we're here together again. But Lawrence, I sure do like sitting across from you when we get the chance to have our conversation.
Yeah. Also, I put the mic to my face. That's the whole point of this. But I mean, you got your vaccination 3 times.
Yeah.
I've got mine twice. Jason has been vaccinated, so we're pretty comfortable in this little scenario. But, the other areas of the province, we don't know, right?
Yeah.
And 30% of the population, it's up in arms, right?
And, there's so much anger out there right now. I know we're going to talk about the exemptions, and we're going to get to a whole bunch of things, the election, a little bit of sports, talking about the MNC and what's coming up with them, the Constitution. But, as we talk about the specifics of this unique time, there's a lot of anger out there right now between the people who don't understand science, don't have a way to defend the science, but we call them anti-vaxxers. But then when the people who believe in science, the people who support what's happening, and I'm going to use the restaurants as sort of my conversation pieces, here are these young individuals or professional service individuals, and it's their responsibility when somebody shows up to say, I'm sorry, I need to see that you're vaccinated. And then the backlash that they get when they're doing their part. I don't understand what gives people the right to be so rude.
Yeah, absolutely. People are I don't get it either. Why these people are just having to do their job, and they're being directed. And if that business doesn't apply for exemptions, well, then why punish that worker? You should be writing letters to the owner. Yeah. Right?
Not writing letters to the company.
That's
Why
right.
are you it's funny. We're not sponsored by Tim Hortons, though that'd be really nice if we were. I was just coming from there, and a lady walks back in, and you could see the anger. She had ordered a muffin, and it's the 3rd time they didn't get the right muffin. Well, I don't know why you're getting that upset. Talking to the person who's behind the till who probably didn't sell you the muffin to begin with, but expressing your anger amongst everybody that's in this place, that person just looks like an idiot.
Yeah. Or, you kind of wonder, my parents raised me a certain way, to be nice and cordial to people. I wouldn't have this job.
No, you have to have that.
I have to have it, right? But it's just the way it is. But there's a little thing in the mechanism that stops you from saying things verbally, even when you're upset. It's all about control.
And I think we all, we could all have the fact that we're a little bit guilty of reacting. That's just human nature. Yeah. But you're right. In the case of this individual is getting that upset, they've got to take a step back. Now, in this person's situation, perhaps they could spend more time being concerned about reducing their stress and going for exercise than the issue that they couldn't get their muffin that they desperately were after. But
well, it's Tim Hortons' problem. I mean, at the end of the day, why have 12 different versions of a muffin?
Okay, good point. So where we're headed, folks, and this is just a suggestion from the Squeaky Wheel, is start a restaurant like the old days of the Kentucky Fried Chicken, where the only thing you got in there was Kentucky Fried Chicken. And then all of a sudden they started adding on everything else, and now there's too many things to choose from. Those restaurants that you go to, that it's a encyclopedia of meals. There's too many. Now, and then the other thing, and this is not a rant by any means, and I'm not trying to rant at Tim Hortons, but is like, what would you like? All of a sudden the sign changes because it's only digital signs for the roll up to win, which is great, but now I can't even see what it is that I could order.
Right.
You know, they've covered all that over. It's like, well, what would you like? Well, I actually don't know. I wasn't really prepared. I knew I was going to get a coffee, but I didn't know what kind of other muffin I wanted. Right. Maybe I was the person yelling.
Well, I mean, especially when you're ordering for everybody else but me. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
It's really hard to keep track.
Yeah, this way I get to keep you in track. That's right. Now we're in a new place.
Yeah.
I love what, the energy where Jason creates that energy. And I know we'll probably start shooting a little bit more often from let's call it our bit of our home podcast or our business podcast location, where we're going to start shooting some of these I like to go out and do a lot of things, but I'm really liking, our energy as we continue to develop.
Yeah.
We have the Métis fiddle behind us, the traditional capote.
Well, it's a modern version of
traditional
capote, yeah.
True. I guess if it's not traditional, it's called a jacket.
Well, right? I don't know if they had that type of embroidery in the old days, but yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, that's from Melanie Rose, and she was in one of our fashion program individuals that competed, and very high scored on that one. So yeah, it's a fantastic one.
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with how high and low scores are, folks. I was probably misjudged, my capote. I know we're going to get Louis Riel back up on the wall for where he's got to be, but yeah, as we continue to build, and I love our Hudson's Bay blanket, but yeah, thanks, Lawrence. Thanks.
Well, this is the headquarters of a Métis Nation Region 3.
Yeah.
Right. We found one little corner of a 7,000 square foot building
to try and tuck into.
But no, and really the office isn't as busy as it used to be. So
until we get that allowance. But folks, it isn't so bad. It may look like I have to step out of the room to change my mind, but actually it's not too bad. Now, and you're also, it looks like, not wearing your traditional shirt. No. Battle of Seven Oaks.
Yeah, this was the commemoration of the 100 years of the Battle of Seven Oaks in Winnipeg. And we all received these shirts at the event, and it's very nice.
Mine in the back somewhere?
No.
You might have just grabbed onto one.
Well, no. And my ancestors here actually had quite a few that were participated. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's got the beautiful Métis, the Red River card on there. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Constitution hearing, so we can move away from some of the frustration and anger. And folks, if you're frustrated and you're angry, ask for help. If it's feeling so desperate that you're this angry at anti-vaxxers or at people who don't listen, there are services that are available. Look up albertamétis.com. You can probably get through them from the métis3.org website. And there are health services, mental health services, because as much as, we here we talk, we joke, we try to be inclusive of the conversation, there are people who do find it difficult. So folks, we just want to encourage you, make sure that you reach out to these resources. There's lots that are available. Connect with the Métis. Let's talk about the Constitution hearings.
Yeah, so we had one, we had two in Region 3, one in Medicine Hat and one here in Calgary. And it was very well attended, I thought. Certainly it was the day after they announced these new restrictions, so we kind of had to fit it all in as best we can, and also keep a safe environment for the elders that were there. And I thought they did a wonderful job, and certainly outlining where we're going with this Constitution. But we're going to a third draft. Mm-hmm. So this is just the second draft piece. And then once we get into the third draft, they'll be coming back to do another set of hearings, and then we can talk about that one. And then,
we're always looking to blame people when we say, well, it just doesn't seem like we were included. It just doesn't seem like the awareness. This is important because when we get further drafts and people go, well, we never had a chance to talk about it along the way. Actually,
that's right.
There was a number of them. There were ways that you could send in your questions. They can always ask you to bring a question forward in order to be evaluated.
Yeah, that's right. The AGA was the big one. I mean, that was a whole day with, hundreds of Métis there that were participated, right? So, and then of course, having the hearings that are a little more intimate, you can get 40 to 50 people in a room and talk about things, right? And hopefully that happens quite a bit. And the commission, they have a lot of work to do. I know that. It's separate from my job. Thank God, because I wouldn't want to deal with that whole Constitution thing. But certainly I'm just a conduit to let members know or say this is happening and leave it at that. And hopefully they show up.
Well, and, I often am asking the questions, or my responsibility is to also try and ask you some of those questions. So when we get emails at tsw@métis3.org, send anything you want. When we ask those questions, I'm not finding as many people asking so many questions yet about where we're at with our Constitution, how many drafts it's going to take. And actually, I have heard a few people who have talked about the challenge of very specific wording. Because just like any Constitution, as time evolves, it's not set in stone. It's the Constitution which allows for a process of change. But, how many steps before you actually vote on a Constitution?
Well, the reason why we're so, we wanted to go to 3 levels. I think they had an initial just 2 drafts and then we vote on it as a province. But they're going to 3 and then we vote on it, is because of the intricate detail and also how it's going to change a little bit about how government relates to us as Métis people. Again, they haven't had a Constitution talk with really anybody but Louis Riel. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, we also want to frame it so it's obviously contemporary. Our needs are different now. And certainly outlining that our population is very big. We're talking about 500,000 people across Canada. So not across Canada, sorry, across the homeland.
Across the homeland.
Yeah. But it's quite a few people. And so Canada certainly wants to make sure that each province, when they go through their self-government agreements, that they're getting to every single Métis person. And hopefully all the other provinces work on their self-government framework too.
How do we deal with people who don't want to fall under the Métis Constitution? You have sort of groups now that are saying, well, you know what? The Alberta don't really represent me. Or this Constitution might not represent me. Do we build for the majority? There's just as many people out there who would claim sovereignty against the government of Canada. I'm not really Canadian. I just live here.
Yeah, this Constitution will pass with 2/3 of the vote, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where does the MNC fall into this now? Because elections are coming up for them.
Métis National Council has always been the secretariat of the provinces, so the Board of Governors. So what makes the Board of Governors is each president from each province.
Right.
So all 5 will get together and they'll have their MNC meetings. And then that MNC president kind of represents all their viewpoints and goes to negotiate in meetings and stuff like that. So, but we haven't really met for quite a while. I think a couple of years now. And certainly we're wanting to get to the table to start looking at a new president, because President Chartier's term kind of expired, right? And he ran in Saskatchewan and then came back to MNC. The Board of Governors are certainly uncomfortable with not having a current president.
Sure, so, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we're having another meeting the end of September in Saskatoon to look at new candidates and possibly hold an election there.
So based on the fact that, again, you have a role within the region that, regarding the education and awareness of the Constitution, and then, your support, your role behind the MNC, is there going to be a time where I have to go to the U.S. to bring you back?
Well,
sort of like Dumont.
Yeah. I'm not going to be exiled.
You're not being exiled at any time?
No.
Okay, so I don't have to start saddling a horse anytime soon.
No.
You imagine how long that trip must have been
for Dumont and Saskatchewan. Yeah,
just sort of, hey, we should go bring Louis back. Well, I only got the weekend.
Well, he needed it. I mean, at the end of the day, he knew Riel had his own government in Manitoba.
Right.
And when that was sort of done, and he was exiled to the States, and he was an American citizen at that time. They went down to say, Riel, can you help us in Saskatchewan? Because our people are starving and they're dying. And the government is controlling pretty much everything aspect of our lives, and that's the reason why they brought him up. But I mean, I'm not a savior like that at all. I don't think people are coming to me for.
So I'm going to have to drag you back.
No.
So the plan is not for me to go down historically with a Red River cart on horseback and put you in the cart and bring you back. It'd probably have to be good flights that are good timed.
Yeah.
Yeah, a meal. You're unlikely to go into exile. Well, we all know how well it turned out for, maybe we don't all know how well it turned out for Louis Riel, but folks, it didn't turn out so well when the judgment came down. And it was you read about the fact that when they were, the proceeding was occurring, the jury thought long and hard going, maybe this isn't correct to accuse him and, finish a sentence as a result of treason, which at that time was hanging. So, maybe we're at less risk of that.
Well, I mean, and put it in the context, I don't think the jury was really in favor of the Métis. And
no, but morally, at that time, I still have to think morally, people are going, regardless of the fact that they're not concerned about supporting the Métis, their concerns or or even worried about the identity, they are still trying somebody. And I like to think that when they ask you if you're going to be on a jury, are you going to be impartial? Are you going to make an appropriate decision? I like to think that those people were challenged by that.
Well, there were still rules for extradition back then.
Right.
And they had the option of extraditing Riel. He wrote letters to the White House to kind of get that ball rolling. They completely ignored him. But certainly he did. I mean, he was a fully naturalized citizen of the U.S.
Yeah.
Right. And I think at that same year in 1885, they extradited 3 people back to the States and not Riel.
Oh,
so
that I wasn't aware of. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, talking about things that occur down in the U.S., our Blue Jays. Now, we went through some heavy hitters of anti-vaccination, mental health, and the hanging and trial of Louis Riel. Let's try to turn our conversation back to a little bit.
That's quite the transition.
Yeah, the quick transition. Maybe we could maybe smile and laugh a little bit. We're on a wild card chase.
Yes.
Our Blue Jays.
Yeah.
At the start of the year, I was they were really touting Vladdy 2 years ago. This is going to be one of the saviors of Toronto baseball. This guy's going to hit. And then the next year suffered. They just didn't do all that well and just couldn't close out the season. And then this year, it's like pretty young, not the best start, a little bit of a build. The energy's there. And then all of a sudden, is it the youth? Is it just luck? Is it just timing that all of a sudden their strength seems to be powering?
Well, you know what's funny? And I look at George Springer as being,
he's
kind of grown on me.
Oh, yeah. Bit. Well,
I mean, from the whole cheating scandal.
From the cheating
But, from up here, and I noticed when he's on the roster and he's playing, he lifts the team up for some reason. There's just something about him, and all the players respond to him.
It's like when I'm in this podcast, I just lift the energy and the spirit up just a little bit. Otherwise, it'd just be this dark, gloomy. I am so excited, just as I'm excited about return to the NHL, and we're going to talk a little bit about the rodeos and the sad challenges that just anybody faces. But the race to the wild card is pretty fun.
That's right,
and
it's fun actually in the National League too. They're going through one too. But yeah, it's really tight between Boston, New York, and Toronto.
Yeah. And even, you may not get past that wild card, but it's sure fun. It's made the game, it's energized the game. It's energizing Canada again, as I guess we'll touch a little bit on that.
Well, what's funny is that Toronto has their last series is with New York Yankees at the end of the month before the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That and you lose it.
So those games are going to be really popular, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and polarizing because they'll when you're playing in your own league or in your own division. Speaking of polarizing, now, folks, if you're going to complain about any aspect of this year's election that was called, if you didn't vote, don't email me. Don't bother me. Don't send me any information. If you did vote and you want to have a voice, which you did there, then we're happy to continue the conversation. We're not trying to suggest that everybody gets to have their own right. And we're pro, I think I'm pro Métis, I'm pro Canada, I'm pro Alberta. Whatever is the best decisions as we move forward. And once again, not a whole lot changed.
No, actually, not a lot. I mean, the NDP got a few more seats.
And Liberals lost a few seats. We put a Liberal into, I think it was Northeast Calgary. Yeah. And I'm excited that, that we still have a voice. And maybe that's our Liberal voice.
Well, Chahal he's a city councillor for Calgary. Now he's, an MP.
MP.
So, should be different for him and his family. But.
Oh, I could only imagine. And hopefully, now that we have, let's call it our Liberal representation, maybe he gets to speak on behalf of our province. Because when it's all blue, they don't even, Trudeau will just fly right over. Why stop? But now he's actually got to stop because there's one dot of red. And, my attitude's always been is that you can really only fall left or right of center so far. Yeah. And, I don't know if people down east, though they have voted Conservative before, but that even if you decided that you're tired of Trudeau or you're tired of the Liberals, if you even voted, because as much as we're still just a two-party system,
that's right.
The conversation's there. But if you voted Conservative, you're only on this side of the line.
Yeah.
And again, I can't speak to every aspect of our government and politics. A lot of money's been spent by the Liberals. And I do find as soon as somebody steps up and says, well, I feel like our issue has not been recognized well enough. Trudeau just puts his hand up and says, well, I'm desperately sorry for that, and here's some money.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at it, the NDP kind of the ones who split the vote pretty much. So the amount of NDP seats in the West would really decide the election for the Conservatives here in Western Canada.
Yeah. Again, how much it's polarizing in a sense, but just because we've reelected somewhat the same kind of government system, it's not like we're going to see wholesale changes. Folks, It's not like bridges are going to start falling down or hospitals are going to collapse. No. They're going to collapse because you haven't done your part in the sense that if every doctor and every nurse gets vaccinated, and I would dispute that not everybody is, but the large population of that majority, and you're not, do they want to see you? You got to ask yourself that too. Yeah. Are we going to get to the point where there are unvaccinated hospitals filled with unvaccinated nurses and unvaccinated doctors? Because right now, the only people who end up in the hospital seem to be, for the most part, people who are unvaccinated. That's the largest population. But if we all recognize the fact that, okay, we've reelected, this is the person who's there to represent my interests, folks, bring them your questions and concerns.
For sure.
Whoever your local representative is, MP, MLA, city councillor, elected representative.
Well, I mean, politicians got elected. They put their name out there.
Yes.
They got elected in. So you work with that person.
Yeah. And just as many didn't. But I got to respect them for stepping up.
Absolutely right. Yeah. It takes a lot of cojones to do that. And it's important. But, I mean, they're there.
How big are your cojones?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to know.
Nobody wants to know. But no, certainly, I get on, board with things because, well, I put my name out there because I want to contribute. It's not about the money. It's about, and then what do I have that I can actually give to the nation? It is a little hard during COVID, but definitely have to really think about other ways to do this, right?
Oh,
but
yeah. This being one of them.
That's right. Yeah.
There's only so many lunches and so many, you're only going to get so much attention that way. But as we're trying to expand our conversation from just being south of Red Deer to being representing more of the Alberta conversation to representing the prairie conversation, hopefully we have some connection with ourselves with the MNC. So they go, yeah, there's a lot of great things. We've spearheaded, a lot of groups that have decided they're going to try their own podcast to try and connect with their community.
Sure. And we should. I mean, I'd be happy if every region had a podcast. If every affiliate we had, housing or Rupert's Land and all of them have it. I think it's important for the Métis Nation just to be out and visible, and people can actually see us within a half hour or 45 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's true. And we're trying to capture as much information as we can. So, and always, folks, www.thesqueakywheel.ca. You'll connect right with us. A lot of rodeos canceled. We're seeing national sports that are happening with all of the restrictions that are happening within Alberta. Yeah. I think it's just difficult for anybody to try and have an event.
Yeah, I mean, if we're fully vaccinated and they're checking records and everything's outside,
I'd like to see more.
More safer than that. I'm sure the horses would appreciate getting exercise, so.
And they're there for the energy as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. And, we should have fun. We should be able to have fun during this pandemic, but really in a safe way.
Well, in the best safe way that we can, because, boy, you're old.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can just see it when I look at you. Right. Represent a much younger demographic than Lawrence. I still don't look as old as Lawrence. I keep telling myself that, which is not necessarily true. But I really feel for the kids out there right now that, the best time was when you went to university and met new people and made new friends and connected. And then the younger ones who the most incredible thing is when I've seen my nieces and nephews, and it's when they're around 7 or 8 years old and they meet a kid on the playground and they kick some dirt at each other and then they slide the slide once and they go, hey, can we be friends?
Yeah.
How incredible is that? Like that's the way it should be.
Well, I just think in your 20s, you probably would have got COVID. Right. But you're more mature now.
I'm more mature now.
Yeah, you're fine.
That's actually a really interesting question.
But me in my 20s, I mean, geez, I don't know how Jason could do it without getting it. But yeah.
I'm like you, I was just getting beat up most places as I moved from one military base to the next. But that's an interesting epidemiological or anthropological question of, what would it have been like?
Well, when I'm in my 20s, your friends were around you. You had roommates here in house to house. And it was just, the lifestyle was different.
Yeah, you're right. Whereas now, right, and it's just a little bit more closed off. And all these poor kids who, I get it that they're managing. And kudos to every one of you out there. And we'd like to try and find different supports. Because if you have to study from home, you still need to find that space. If you have to study virtually, I'm hoping you're figuring out a way to try and connect with people because it's not the same.
Yeah.
Not like when the teacher said, get into a group, you two are going to be a group and you two are going to be a group. And it's like, we got to do group work. Yeah. But actually that was the best part of getting to know people, who you liked, who you didn't like.
Yeah, that's right. And I hope that doesn't lose any of that for people in their 20s now.
Yeah, I hope not.
I hope they have that same type of freedom, right? And we're trying to create that for them too, by creating access to vaccines and all that stuff to help them.
That's true.
And we're getting it because we don't want to give it to them either. So,
which was, again, one of those real predominant statements is do your part. There are other people who can't. And I do know of other people who can't, or their children are at such great risk because of health issues that they have. And our elder population and our senior population.
Yeah,
we're trying to protect them. This is our responsibility.
Yeah.
Now, Oktoberfest. Do we as Métis people do anything? Is it a historic?
Well, the only Oktoberfest that I noticed is those Pogo brothers in Lethbridge that have their big October. They have a big Oktoberfest event.
Do they?
And they had to cancel it this year.
Oh, I was able. Again, you had to prove all this. I think I did. There was Far Bier. Big shout out to Far Bier. Guten Tag, jetzt alles, mein deutsche Freunde. They did an Oktoberfest, and it was, rather muted. But they are a Germans who had come over from Germany, and they created a little brewery out in Turner Valley.
Right.
And are trying to energize anybody who's willing to go out there to have a bit of the Oktoberfest experience.
The only Oktoberfest experience that I've noticed is people drinking out of these glass boots. And I never really understand why it's a glass boot and not a real one, right? But
like one of your old cowboy boots? Because I can 100% guarantee I'm not drinking anything out of one of your old cowboy boots.
That's why they made the glass ones? So they can
maybe that's why they made the glass
ones.
Yeah. Though generally it's the German Moss, which is their big mug, which is Mouse, and holds a liter of beer.
Right.
Now, that's a good point. I don't actually, lived in Germany, know when the tradition of where the boot came from. But I did remember the movie Das Boot. Not the one with, not the submarine one, which is Das Boot being...
With the Bon Jovi one?
No, the one where the guys are all drinking, they've gone on it's like a big competition. And you have to turn the boot.
Right.
Otherwise, the bubble will cause...
That's right, and it splatters in your face.
Yeah. Inane university antics, I guess, would sort of sum up that movie.
Right.
We're going to have to look that one up. Lawrence, I think we're probably running out of time, and I know we went through a whole bunch of things. Is there any shout-outs you want to give to our community or to say thank you? Because, I know we thank Jason, we thank the team that supports us here behind the Squeaky Wheel. And folks, we always appreciate those of you who click that little red subscribe button. It helps us. It helps us with who we connect with in our community, our sponsors. We're always looking for more sponsors or people or industry who would like to help support Métis conversation about Métis, as well as how we re-engage Indigenous populations into the energy side, into the business side, into politics. These are the relationships, and those industry relationships are those ones that help reaffirm that connection.
I don't know, really, it's shout out. I don't appreciate anybody. No, just kidding. I spend much of my time, want to get in front of our community to really acknowledge people. And, I want to acknowledge actually the staff here at Region 3, take the opportunity to do that. And I am going to plan an outing for them that we can work on our mental health. And I'm thinking of a equine assisted learning exercise. And there's plenty of those places around Calgary. And just
fun.
Go see the horses and touch and feel them and get their energy. And, don't have to get on them. But, certainly there's a healing quality between us and them, right?
Just that connection. Yeah. They're there to help bring down the anxiety, bring down your fear. And there's a lot of great programs out there when it comes to the mental health aspects. And though, I support anyone. I support any aspect of sort of a connection if it's there to create mental health strength.
Yeah.
There are some that are more proven. Yeah. There are some people who carry chickens around and go, this is my stress animal. I get that, but there's not... Why not just connect with a piece of paper? What is a fair allowance? We do know the strength of animals. We do know the strength of dogs. We do know their ability to manage them and make them service animals.
Yeah.
And they become part of your family. That's what I respect, and I'd like to see more of that. So
yeah, my daughter is 5 years old, and we're talking about horses now. That's always a good time to really start talking about the animals and our respect for the land and stuff like that. And she's really responsive. The boy just wants to play his Hot Wheels right now. So.
Well, I look forward to when our next podcast is actually from some kind of equine therapy, and there's horses behind us.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And we'll put out one of those markers, and we get to bet on where the animal. So Lawrence, thank you again. Thanks for this weekly conversation. We're always building it. We're always developing. Folks, again, you know where to reach out to us. From the President, Lawrence Gervais, from the Captain, Ross Memphis Pambrin. Keep the fire burning and keep the wheel squeaking, folks. Thank you kindly.